Thank you guys for having me here today again. Today, I literally spent some time thinking about what I'm going to talk to you about that'll add value for both you and me and also be impactful. The reason is because the last time I spoke about this topic, it was in Sweden at ESPC, and before that was in August at TechCon. So it's been quite some time, and since then, we've actually released this feature. Now, most of my time is actually talking, doing samples. Hopefully, you guys are seeing this out there on the interwebs, whether it's LinkedIn and Twitter or on YouTube or whatever. So a lot of my time is speaking into a camera and not really interacting with folks, unless it's with a customer that we're onboarding or a partner that we're onboarding. So today, I actually want to spend some time doing a show and tell and ask. And what is a show and tell and ask is basically I want to tell you what we're trying to solve for here, why we're doing it, what it is, how to use it. And I'm actually going to do it in debug mode today because most of the samples that I do, it's not in debug mode. And I figured you'd probably like to see that as well. We'll see how that goes for time. And then if there's an opportunity for you to ask questions in chat, please do so, and I can hopefully answer it as well. So I don't want to take for liberty that people know exactly what semantic kernel is. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time with that grounding and tell you what problem we're trying to solve with semantic kernel and this feature. So as you can see on the slide before, the feature is called Copilot Agent Plugins, and it leverages semantic kernel. And there's really two reasons why we're actually building this solution and giving it to developers. One, well, does everyone even know who I am? I take it for granted that I'm doing a show with you from last year, Vesta. So again, everyone, my name is Fabian Williams. I am a principal product manager on the Microsoft Graph Core team, particularly in data and services. My core mission is to ensure that developers are able to create solutions with Microsoft 365 for Gen AI and make sure it's frictionless as possible. So in that vein, I want to ensure that the developer experience is simplified. That's one of the reasons why this plugin exists. And also to ensure that that when you're working with M365 data, it is also safe and compliant. What does safe and compliant mean? One is that without a developer story for M365 using Gen AI, a lot of people told me from either MVP Summit days or in other conversations that we don't have a solution. We're just going to egress the data out. And then when you do that, you basically break the permission in, the access control list, and now you have data in two different places. So what is the source of truth? So it creates more problem than it solves just to try and just create an experience. So by using CAPS, Copilot Agent Plugins, we solve for that. Now, as I mentioned before, I said if you don't know what semantic kernel is, I don't want to take that for granted. So the best way is to think about semantic kernel as a platform where everything is managed by a central kernel object. This kernel can register plugins that you see on the left, my left that is, and services that you see on the right, and it uses planners to decide which plugins to invoke and when. And it also can use agents to dialogue back and forth amongst itself. There's an example that you're going to get as a link as well, and I did recently, where I'm actually using agents with CAPS to either communicate with human beings or to communicate amongst itself. Now, to start, a service can be anything like Azure OpenAI or OpenAI Chat Completion. It can be anything like that. Or it can be a local model that you have yourself, or it can be just about any other services that you want to expose using dependency injections. And on the flip side, plugins is what you've been using before. It could just be a REST API like the Graph API. It could be a custom code that you have exposed as a class that you want to easily flip over into something with semantic kernel or other open API services as well. Now, with our Microsoft's hat on, the way you should think about this is not one or the other. The way that I think about it and the way that I speak to people about it is that whether you're building a declarative agent or a custom engine agent, you should think about it as one and the same, a continuum, if you will, where a low-code developer can build something that can easily be turned into a custom engine agent by a pro-code developer, and a pro-code developer can take something and you can export that into something that a DA can be created with by a low-code developer. Now, once you've done that, though, however, you can communicate to your own backend LOB systems. You can do, as I'm going to be doing today, use classic Graph CRUD, other Microsoft API services, or if you're an ISV on the call here today and you expose any of those through Open API specification, then what we're providing you is the ability to create a prompt. And that prompt can be either a generic raw prompt, or it can be a meta prompt. And a meta prompt can be considered as something that the intent is already inferred. Your RA has already gone over it. You've aggregated a bunch of different things, and you're saying this is the prompt I want to send across the wire. So it can either be raw or a meta prompt. But once you do that, then it can actually, using semantic kernel and using the plugins nature of semantic kernel, it can figure out which plugins do I need to call, when do I need to call it, and in what manner. And then from one sentence, it can basically hit several different plugins and bring you back a synthesis that reasons over several different things at the same time. This is what it looks like all up, but this slide's already out there, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but semantic kernel, as you can see, is basically in the middle. But what it does allow for you to do as developers or as people building these experiences, that you can bring, this is basically what we have as an agent paradigm. You've seen us use this before for declarative agent and even custom engine agent. I just repurpose it to talk about what you as a developer have control over. So you can definitely bring your own model, whether it's finely tuned model or if it's a small model. You can certainly bring your own knowledge and grounding. What we've seen from customers and what they've told us is that they have data not just in M365, but they also have it in different places as well. Blob storage, their own SaaS application, their own internal stuff, and they may want to aggregate and reason over it as for the LLM to get to as one entity rather than just as separate. Or they may have a different embedded model schema that they're using than what we use here at Microsoft. And then you may already have your own skills, which is your own APIs, your own applications that's already lived out there. Or you may not just want to use our orchestrator. You may be using LangChain, you may be using semantic kernel or others. So that's what we provide for you. Now, what I'm going to do is actually, that's the part of it just to ground everyone. Let's actually take a step into what this looks like. And there's a couple ways I want to do it. I'm going to do a demo first, and then I can do a code walkthrough. But just the way that this is set up for you to understand it is we have a project that a developer would create, and inside that project, we, Microsoft, have hand-rolled. What I mean by hand-rolled is we've created for you several different plugins to get you started so that you're not started from scratch. And those are basically the calendar plugin. You'll notice there's two files inside there, a YAML file and a JSON file. That's basically a Copilot plugin, one for messages, one for drive item, one for contacts. So what's baked right now are messages and calendar. We're iterating through the rest. So we're moving, it's like iterative GA. Some is shipped, some not shipped. So the first thing we're going to do is .NET run demo. I'm not going to do the debug one now because it may be messy. I'll just do it a little bit later on, providing that there's time. But once I do .NET run and demo, what we should get basically back is one of the first things that you should be happy about is that we want to give you flexibility. So you may be doing this in Azure OpenAI, or if you're like me, that have a lot of time on the nights and weekends trying to figure out how to build stuff locally, you could do it in Olama as well. But for today, we're going to do it in OpenAI just because it'll run faster and we don't have to wait for GPUs to spin up. But the first thing you're going to see me do is click on this, which is going to load a couple plugins. So you can discreetly choose your calendar. I'm going to choose contacts. I'm going to choose messages plugin. Press enter, and it's going to load all of these plugins. So what is done right now is make all of those plugins available to the LLM. Now I'm going to come down here and execute a goal, but before I do that, so that you can actually see this working, I'm going to show you something that's inside here. So I'm logged in as Adel Vance here, as you can see already. And in Adel Vance, you can see that she has an email from Kaiser Sose that was done today as well. Tuesday, that was done yesterday. And inside her calendar, she had a meeting with Kaiser. I don't know if I can move this over here. I can't. Yesterday, I like doing one where it's about the same day. And she also has some stand-ups that she needs to attend to. You'll also notice, and I'll just refresh the screen here for you so you can see it's not tricks. Let's go ahead and do contacts. My contacts, you'll notice that Adele also has Kaiser Sose as a contact inside her M365. Pay attention to the phone number. Pay attention to the email, because then you're going to know it's not a trick, obviously. So with that done, let's go ahead now and execute a goal and say, what can you... I can't type and talk at the same time. I realize that I made a ton of mistakes. So what can you tell me about my contacts, Kaiser Sose? So when I press enter, this also runs under delegated authentication. So it needs to run in the context of the user. So what we're doing here is device code auth. However, today I was just in a conversation with Mahmoud, one of our MVPs, and he's done something with on behalf of Flow. Cancel on behalf of Flow, and so you can choose your own auth schema. But this is just to demonstrate that this is all done in the context of the user, so it's very permissioned. You'll notice it'll come back here. I'm logging in as Adel Vance to this sample application that you also have access to inside GitHub. And now it says I've signed in. I minimize this and I'm going to wait, and we should get something coming back. Notice from that one sentence, it comes back and it tells me, cards associated with the phone number here and that Gmail address. Let's do one more, and then we can do a debug one because I think I have time. I'm good on time. Vesa hasn't screamed at me yet. I'm going to do something, and I'm actually going to channel Vesa in this one. Actually, no, let's not do that one. Let's do this one here. I'm trying to find a prompt that I can run with. Yeah, there we go. This one's good. And then I'm going to play with Vesa in a minute. So we'll do this right here. What are my last 5 emails, and can you give me a summary? So what I expect to see is that one from Kaiser. I forgot what it's about, but we'll see it in a minute here. We'll validate it then, but we can see how fast that comes back. It says Kaiser's asking about, are we in the chip business? This email expressed acceptance of a previous invitation, talks about the Majorana chip, which is what Majorana 1 chip, which is what Microsoft talked about last week. So you can see it gives me the 5. We asked about 5, it gave back 5. And if we come back over here and look at Adel's inbox, we can actually see it's asking about that chip. She will be talking about Saul about it and don't discuss it with Keaton and so on and so forth. We're playing on the usual suspect stuff. So we've seen that there. Let's come down here now and actually do this exit, and we're going to do a .NET run demo and then --debug. And let's actually run the exact same prompt again, and I want you to see exactly how cool this is. So execute. Oh, I didn't load the plugins. Load the plugins, calendar, contacts, messages. Notice how it actually gives us all of this information now because we're in debug mode. It's letting us know it loaded the YAML plus the JSON. Let's come down here and execute a goal. Let's do the one that I wanted to do with Vesa. And hopefully it doesn't freak out and break. All right, so we're going to grab this guy here. Control C. Notice I'm saying here with typos, what is my last email about, and can you give me a summary? Please send an email to Vesa with a subject that captures the intent of the email, spell email wrong again, and the actual body of the email. So I come inside here. You can see it's reason over. It's doing a list message call. It's also now asking me to, because it realizes I need to authenticate for this one real quickly. So I come over here. Oops, back to Adel. Here, device code auth, Control V. Log in as Adel again, because we logged out. Now, if you are logged in, it does save the token in a cache, but because we logged out and come back in, it does. Notice it's giving us all of this information here. So it gives us a synthesis of that meta prompt, and it gives you what we're sending over the wire because it's using several different plugin information as well. And it says now I have sent an email to Vesa with the following. So Vesa, look for an email from Adel Vance and confirm for me if you have subject with the subject line and that email body right there. But as you can see, what we're doing here is we have the ability to show you not only what we're sending over the wire, but what also is being sent back. So if you wanted to debug this, if token size is an issue with you, if you just want to massage and make sure that your prompt is good based on what you're asking, then you can basically see how that works. And this is exactly the same thing that you saw before, except it's inside a raw payload. Vesa, did you get an email?
Let's see.
It could be in your junk folder.
Yeah, I got an email from Adel once. Yes,
there we go. All right. So I don't know if there are any questions that are being asked inside chat, but I'm actually going to stop sharing now. And we talked about show and tell and ask. So Vesa, do they have access to chat?